browser test at all levels. Then they leave the regression test that they wrote down. Then they give back to the tester who develops a regression test, and the tester writes another test and reports all the back when all the tests are up and all the bugs are fixed. The task is released. The scheme is simple. Since we've been doing this for a long time, our grass is covered with auto tests. We did it for every feature. And basically, if you do this the same, it's a simple algorithm. You just agree on with developers on the following scheme. That's it. Thank you for your attention, guys. In fact, this is not exactly true. Please raise your hands those who think that this is really simple to agree with developers to write more auto tests than they did the day before. Cool, that's really cool. So somebody thinks it's really simple. Currently, what I'm going to tell you today, I'll tell you what tester needs to do for the developers to write more tests. What I will not mention today, I will not mention today how we arrived at this scheme of releases, because it was a long time ago, 3 or 4 years ago. I was not part of the team, so will not be able to tell the details of what happened. So I tell you about the problems that we're facing today. Using the example of these problems, I will show you what testers of our team do to agree with testers on some cool stuff. I agree that the processes are different and the problems that we'll address may not be of interest to you, but the advice that I arrived at could be very purposeful for you, because they are based on one thing. We go to developer and agree on something, or releasing something good. So here's a few words about the contents of my presentation. I'll tell you how to motivate people to follow your goals and not theirs, how to demotivate people. If they want to do something and you just break them. And I'll tell you quickly how to plan the auto test to involve all members of the team. Of course, there are some limits of applications and approaches that were mentioned, and in our team we have our hardship that you need to overcome in your case. Also, there are cases when you cannot agree on anything with anyone, because this is the status quo. But I try to give advice on this too. About us, but at first I need to bring you into the context of my team, because the presentation will have a lot of examples that will not be clear without a context and background. Well, our developers team includes 15 people and 4 testers. We make the content.ADI product. We use the procedure type sharp number of script. We have a big load, difficult tasks to tackle. Basically, what you also do. I try to draw a pyramid. We have 10,000 unit testers and 3,200 end-to-end tests, and we have 3,400 user interface tests. We don't have any other testers. Stability. The testers are not stable for each launch. Then the stability goes from 0 to 10. The proportion of stability you can calculate on your own, and the tests run for 3 or 4 days. It's important background for products. Then I will address one problem that we're facing now. Here's the problem: this staff that we have is constantly renewed. Some people leave and new people come, and we need to integrate new people. The problem is that new testers may not be able to write tests. You need to test them. You need to teach them. Also, we have some convention we need to follow. Another problem with people is that when sometimes you have a new engineer who is very very experienced, and they hold their own views on how to write tests, which is not in line with our approaches. We need to grab the common denominator. Next problem is that people that come, they try to fit into our release cycle, but it's difficult for them to uh, develop and upgrade the system. They were not there when the system was developed. We need to teach them that they should not be afraid of putting amendments into the test. A few more words about the background. Testers and members of the team have two simple goals. They need to find all the possible bugs and fix them. The second goal, I want the task to get released as soon as possible. What is the time to market? Is the time when you set the task and to the release date, and want this time to be short as possible. The problem here is that if you try to tackle these things separately, the solutions, they are contradictory. To find as many bugs as you need to try to find as many bugs and write the models as best you can. This way I can find a lot of bugs, but if I find a lot of tests, my time to market will increase. Why? Because based on our experience, all in many cases, the time to market depends on the time spent and the line for amendments. I'm doing something else, I need to switch to this task to finish it. So according to our experience, the more bugs I find at the testing stage, the more time it will be needed to release the task. So the more ping pong activity there is, the later it will release. The solution is I want to find as few bugs as I can, but I want them to be found after all. So we're aiming at this goal in a simple way. Basically, to achieve this goal, I want the test developer write as many tests and before they handle it to me. Then I will find fewer bugs. Now I'm finished with the background. I'll switch to example. I'll start with the first one. Like, imagine you're a tester and you get a senior developer approaching you and saying that why are you working so slow? I mean, the testing guys. You need to respond with something, reply with something. My first reaction is that, guy, I assure you in the right place. I wanted to put in the picture of Stas Boretsky, but I didn't do that. We need to stand our ground. What are the options? Please raise your hands, those who know exactly what they need to say in this case. What can you do? You can actually get offended and say, "What don't you believe me? We work together." I mean, shoulder to shoulder. Trust. There should be some trust in the team. We can protect our borders. Basically, you can actually get angry and say something in response, something bad in response. You can say you're a bad developer. If you were better, it would take me less time. You don't need to fly off the handle. You can say, and I understand my schedule. I'm here at this point, and this is how it is, and I have a lot of time. And the developer will just say, maybe, and leave. Which option is the best? We can say. No, I actually didn't put the best option on the slide. All these options on the slide are not the best because they don't give us anything good. But I want to remind you that as a retailer, I want a tester to write as many tests as possible. Why? But yeah, let's think, is there an option that will bring us closer to the goal? With this tester, it was actually a real situation. We regularly spoke with him, and that's what I told him. I told him, here's my plan. I need to write a number of tests. You can help me with the test if you have time. This way, the test will release earlier. This is what we all want. Also, in our release testing system, I need to fix something, and we need a day for it. I'm not the best programmer there are. If you help me, we'll do it faster. In this case, we are protecting our borders and limits without being acting like bad guys, without getting offended. Also, we can, in this case, we have an agreement that we do our work. The testing, the programmer can help me with the testing system. I actually learned a lot from the senior programmer, and I managed to finish it within half an hour, not within 24 hours. And in this conflict situation, I got out scot-free. on a regular basis, if you sit down with your development staff, you actually, I don't know, you to communicate everywhere in this kitchen, in the Scrum sessions, and there are different options of. I want to tell you today here that you need to remember about your goals, and in these situations, you need to choose and pick the options that will bring you closer to your goals. But it sometimes happens that you don't know how to respond. But the idea seems to be easy. You get approached by people who come to you with ideas, but the situation is much more complicated. I'll give you more examples. And on a daily Scrum meeting, the developer says that I'm finishing my test. I cannot write to test. We have some bug in the testing system. I'll finish it by the end of the day. I'll give it to testers. This is what our agreement. What can we do with it? We can do nothing about it because we're in our agreement. We are managing our tasks. But let's think ahead, a few steps ahead. What happens next? If the developer doesn't finish the test and doesn't find the bugs, I get this task and I write a test and find a bug and return the task to the developer. So this ping pong thing is not what we need. Let us think. How do we approach it? I usually do the following. I come to the test developer and say, let's sit down and spend half an hour to finish the test. If we do not succeed, we do as we usually do. If we succeed, it will be better for everyone. And the two options are available here. If we do it in half an hour and find the bugs, we will not find in the testing period. That would be great. Besides, since I share the product, I will go deep into the testing and ask them to write, developer to write several more tests. We have a problem in the testing system, for example, but I showed the developer how to check it manually. They would find the bugs. And the main summary here is that, the major summary is that the developer has a guy who comes up to him and says, I want to help you do your job that you don't really like, and I want to help you do it faster. Usually people easily agree to this. This is the summary. If you want people to help you with something, just show them that the help will arrive, that you will get help with auto test from the testers. Tell them that help is inevitable. What other cases? What options are possible? Imagine in the evening we're having dinner in the kitchen. We have a developer who approaches us, who had been programming for a while. He has his cheeks rosy. And he tells me that there is some bugs that calculates the page upload and pay time. I almost fixed everything and tell me if you really need this. And I'm thinking that the uploading time per page, there are many more important tasks. He probably shouldn't spend time on this. This is exactly how I put it across to him. And he gets pale, and I basically spoil the situation. He told me that the tests were great, and I told him that I actually acted wrong because the guy was eager to help me, and I strangled him on the spot. Please don't do that with people who want to help you, even if you think that they're not particularly qualified for this. Next. I want to repeat this. If you want the testers to... people who help you finish the test, and they want this to bring joy to their lives. Another case. Again, I'm a tester, I don't have free time, and the developer comes to me and said, I refactored the test, now they're run 5% quicker. It's actually great. Can you preview it? I have two options. I have one option. I trust you're a great guy, you ran all the tests. Why should I review it? Just put it into the masters to the release. Another way is, let me look into it. What is the clearly wrong option? It's actually, the first option is the worst case scenario. the worst thing you can do with the people. If you say to the person that I trust that you did it great, it's actually translates into that it's only your problem. I'm not gonna share your responsibility. I don't really care. We actually want to share the responsibility for the test and not to shift the blame. So the first option is no, no. The second option means that I select the option of reunit, even if I don't understand the mini optimization that he wrote to make the test faster. I will show the person that I noticed his work and introduce some comments. So if you spend half an hour on this, you find something interesting. If I cannot say anything to this, I just say thank you to the person. I learned a lot from your code and became better as a programmer, and which is actually true. Don't shift the blame to the developers if you want to share it. Again, this slide again. Maybe it was it appeared there by chance. Another motivation. I remind you, we have almost 3,500 browser tests, and they drive me mad. Why does it drives the testers up the wall? It drives us up the wall because we need to test. Also, we have a convention that you need to raise everything because to change the test.
Here is what I got. I used to work in another team where only testers made tests and developers didn't help them. Somehow they didn't have a wish to work with that because tests were made for testers only. In our case, we developed tests for the whole team. What's the result? All the developers need tests. That's why there are either one or second person that says, I cannot bear it anymore, I want to change something. You don't have to motivate people. People just contribute to it. They get involved. It's bad that tests are unstable and people are unhappy about something, but the targets are reached. And there are people who say, I hate it, I don't like it, which is actually good. It's a good motivation. How can you use it? On my monitor, in my room, I have these three figures. How many tests I had in master. Everything that we got there is instability. So green is 0. If it's more than green, it's red. So for a long time, it was hanging there in the middle of the room, and people were trying to fix the unstable test. I didn't know if it worked or not. I went to the trip for a month. I went back, and the TV was switched off, and the front end came to me and told me, please bring back the figure. It motivated me because I didn't have to force myself to improve the test, and I brought it back. You can do it really easily. Another action, we came to terms with the developers and decided that we will create some kind of small tasks that the developers can get rid of. If there is a problem with the test, there's a low opportunity that someone will take it. If there is a problem with the test and people make task about it, then they want to take it. If I make a task, if I make a task to fix the test, I will write it down that the test is like that, and there's a problem with that. As long as I write it down, I have already tackled it because usually the problems are easy. Sometimes if you have a lot of tasks, I say, guys, I have a lot of 10 small tasks. It takes about 1 hour to fix it. Let's stabilize tests altogether. Some people do so, and it works well. I promised you to tell you about the development of tests, and it's done easily. First, you come to a team lead and say, you have a technological debt, and how are you going to deal with it? Do the same processes with the test as you do with the technological uh, problems. Developers collect to-dos and wishes and problems they didn't manage to fix. Once in half a year, they meet and say what they managed to tackle, what not. They get rid of the doubles, and so on. Then they divide the tasks into two classes, mandatory and non-mandatory. Mandatory is what you have to do because otherwise the company will collapse. Non-mandatory is what you may need to do, but it's not so urgent. And the rules there are so that you have more tasks than you can do. It's not so important, but you can choose the tasks that you like. And if we want our developers to participate in tests, we need to understand where test task is located in our system. In the majority of cases, it's not about the technological breakdowns. Usually it's a unmandatory task that you need to do, and you need to do it beautifully. Then at the meeting with the developers, you need to present the task in a beautiful way. How to make the task beautiful? It's a difficult question, but you need to write down why. It's good if it's a problem not of the testers only, but a problem of the whole team. Then other members of the team will get involved. Then it's important to know a contact person. Do I do everything correctly? You need a partner, right? Then you need to have a preliminary plan. It doesn't matter what kind of plan you have, because the task with a plan looks more realistic than without a plan. Even it's a very simple plan written on a napkin, it's fine. It would be good if you describe a solution, like tests become 2 times faster, so that a person who wants to follow his own plan understands that he does everything correctly. And the most important thing, you need to write down what to start with. A task might be with a difficult problem, but at the beginning, you need to start, and if they know what to start with, they want it. Okay, so we make a beautiful task, we bring this beautiful task to the meeting, and then we pray that someone will like them. It can happen that no one will like them. Other things are more attractive or more important, and you need to come to terms with that because other things might be more important. But we have created the tasks, and we can either do it on our own or give it to our interns. What are our interns? These are testers who temporarily come to work in your company, boot camp employees or other temporary employees. So you have any person in the task. You are searching for a task which you can take away from the main group of tasks, and it's some kind of a separate task that you can give to your intern. In the majority of cases in our team, interns deal with that. Scrum developer says, I have 2 tasks that I made. I gave one task to analytician, one to testers, and I need something small. And he is waiting. We come to him and say, here is a task, please take it. But we managed to do so simply because we had a ready-made task. And this is how some improvements are made in our tests. Let me give you a trick about the setting of a task. If I want a programmer to help me with the test code, I can ask him to do so, and the whole previous presentation was all about it. Second option is really cool. I'm not a very good programmer. I can come up with a decision, and no matter what it is, the code will be not so beautiful. And I can give this code to a programmer and say, can you please review my code? And usually the programmer says, oh my God, that's awful. He sits down with me and starts to do something. Yeah, in the second case, I have to work more. But it makes the task more beautiful and more exciting. And the second case scenario works in 100 cases because people become curious and involved and start helping you. You have to forget about one important thing. If you only ask for tasks, if you only set tasks and motivate people, people won't take you as a member of the team. You will be some kind of a manager or something. Do the tasks yourself, and it's important for your own development too. Right, that was all about positive things, and now let me share some negative ideas. I don't want to overload you with negativity. The system we live in has a number of difficulties. We tackle them, but they make our life difficult. First, we have high requirements to testers in the team. It's hard to hire new people. You need to write down auto tests. You need to come to terms with people. There are a lot of requirements. On the one hand, it's good to develop, but it's very difficult to hire people. If you need to replace a person, it takes a long time to find the right one. It's a problem that we managed to tackle. We know how to hire good testers really quickly. It's a difficult topic, and I'm not ready to speak about it right now. If you are interested in it, come to me and I'll speak to you outside of this talk. People often come and just want to talk to you. It distracts you from your work. They want something from you. Everything I told you above is that you cannot just stop communicating with people. It's a problem. If you have a question to a tester, you go to the tester who is suffering for all the sins of the team for a week. And as soon as people understand they can communicate with you, they do so. There's another point. The person comes and says, let's do everything differently in auto test. And the first reaction is that I'm afraid I don't want to deal with anything. I'm not an auto tester, but you need to do so because people are looking at you and are waiting for your answer. You cannot give an answer. You need to participate in the finding of solution, and you will share the responsibility for the final decision. Do we need to measure the loading time of the page and so on? These are all the decisions that you need to take. Even more difficult task is that when I set a task, I am afraid that I want a different thing, the plan is not correct, and the person will spend the time simply in vain. He'll waste his time. I'm setting the tasks better and better for now. Perhaps if you set a task, you might be wrong with the goal, with the possible decision, and perhaps the person will waste the time, and it will be painful and sad for you, but it doesn't work otherwise. Another important topic for a seminar, which should last for 8 hours, you need to come to terms and not to quarrel. So there are two options. When you quarrel, you have arguments, and arguments. If you have more arguments, you win. And this point of view will be implemented. And if you come to terms, is when a person tells you, well, I don't like this discussion, let's finish it, and you do so, because you don't quarrel, you come to terms. It's cool to win in quarrels, but I think that if you work in a team, you can win only once or maybe 2 times, and in other cases, this person will simply not talk to you anymore, and you won't be able to come to terms about anything. If you want to get an agreement, do not mix coming to terms with the quarreling. What about difficulties? Sometimes there are cases when you cannot come to terms. When I came to work in the company, we had a testing department. It's a separate room with testers where developers came, bowed, and shared their tasks. Team lead created total silence in the room. If you wanted to say something without a whisper, you need to go to a corridor. I support this decision. I hate another team we have when developers did auto test. It's also difficult because you don't know anything about auto test, and you try to plan something there, you try to motivate developers. All the context of interaction is when no one comes and asks questions to you, and you cannot share responsibility. What to do? I don't know. Just to improve your own skills. This is a possible option. There are people who do auto tests, And if you say them, let's say that now the whole team will be responsible for auto tests, they will be against it because most probably they do their job really well, as they believe they are proud of their work, and you come there and you want to take their pride from them. I don't know what to do about it. I have a possible solution, but I don't want to speak about it. Another option, when testers create tests and use them on their own. In such case, developers have a question: why do I have to help you? Why are your interests more important than mine? If you create these auto tests only for yourself, congratulations, use them and solve all the problems related to them. And a terminal case, sometimes business sells the time of developer more expensive than the time of tester. In such a case, it doesn't work. The economics doesn't work like that. You will have to go back to your tasks. And here is the final part of my presentation. First of all, I want to tell you about the profits we have in our company and some general things about my talk. What are the results? Why do we care about it? First, our regress is covered. It's good. Second, our system is easy to test. Our system works locally, and a lot of other things that create stability of tests and new tests are written immediately. It happened simply because people who can develop tests created them, and not only developers, the testers themselves. The developers do not let bugs in. You open Thread Explorer and you see that the problems are there. Anyway, in such a case, you need to improve your skills as a tester to be useful. You need to create the tests that developers haven't come up with. It improves your skills. That's why it's our profit, and you do not report stupid bugs. We don't have regression inside of the task. I have a task, I find a bug, I give it back to developer. The developer fixes the bug and breaks something. It doesn't work like that because by that moment we have written all the tests, and even inside of one test you haven't tested. Inside of one task you don't have to test one thing twice. And the last but not the least, if I leave this company or the team, I will have a system that will be working because it's in the culture of the team. If we hire new testers, the team show them how it works, and developers and testers will work with the tests. If they fire developers, it's the same. This is what makes me happy. When I leave the team, one day it will happen, there will be a system that will work even without me. I think it's cool. So, if you understand that you don't have to work so much on the test, you have your own other tasks, the start of automation, analytics start, and so on. If you have other goals and you want the team to help you, then help them help you. In any discussion, follow your goals. Motivate people to help you, answer all possible questions, be accessible. If people want to help you, don't reject it. Their motivation is what you need to preserve. Plan them, do it, create tasks, and make sure that it's easy to take this task. If you do all those things, not only you will be responsible for your goals. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you, Vitaliy. Really great and really live presentation. I'm from Novell company. How do you train testers? Do they do it on their own, or does the company help them? Many tasks that were performed by testers as bug reports are not there anymore, and you need to improve your skills differently. It's a really good question. Thank you. Just a couple of ideas. First, we review the activity of each other, simply to improve our skills. We review each other's tests. And third idea, we have conferences, courses. Fourth idea, we organize internal seminars for the whole team to know what testers are doing. We share this information with the whole team. And we try to hire people with experience which is different from ours. Thank you. Second question, about the same. Don't you have any bias when you have a trick with a bad code? Don't they say that these testers don't know anything? Don't you think the developers have this point of view? Well, developers have some point of view about us. Usually they believe that we are their small brothers that can program something one day. Well, I feel it, but I'm fine about it. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. My name is Alexander. I have a question about the culture. As far as I understand, you introduce a new culture that supports a good quality of the processes, of testing, and many other things. The question is about your role. It's not only you in the team, right? Well, in my presentation, I said that there are things that I do, that testers do. Actually, we are all responsible for the same tasks. Okay, how do you make people get familiar with this culture? How do you get involve people into this culture? All right, you have a motivation, but how do you involve the testers? Well, I make a presentation, and I made this presentation to my team too. All the difficult problems are discussed between the testers. If a developer sets a difficult question and says, testers, let's do this and that, we discuss things together. And we come to a joint solution. How can we control it? In our team, they fire really quickly. Sometimes testers do not pass the testing period because they don't test really well. They don't know how to work with auto-test if they have problems with communication. Same with the developers. If you come to a team and say, I don't want to deal with the processes, and you don't come to terms with us, they say, okay, that's good. You can leave it.
Good morning, my name is Anna. I'm from Warsaw. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was interesting. I would like to ask you, how do you teach developers web design techniques so that they will be able to understand if they write a good or bad test, and if you do it, then how do you do it? We don't really teach them that much because, in fact, the basic agreement is that all the scenarios that are written in analytics are covered by the tests, plus all the tests you come up with yourself, and that's enough for us. But the training happens somehow because when a developer comes and says that I need to cover I use the test to cover some problems, and this way they learn something. Recently, we had a funny case with an analyst from our team who came to us as a tester, and I needed to teach her what a testing is, and I told it to the whole staff, and maybe some members of our staff learned something during the lecture. A guy came to me, and when I was listening to you, I found a bug in my task. Thank you very much, Vitaliy, for your task. My question is more of an abstract in nature. You said that you have not been part of the team from the very beginning. I didn't. As I understand, your project is relatively small and mostly on the web. What do you mean by relatively small? The problem is that, for example, I have a company where tests have been written since 2004. They have a code database with 500,000 lines of code in it. How? And consequently, there's a separate team of testing. There's developers and a testing team which are not connected. Can you recommend something? Do you have any ideas to advise them something, how to change the paradigm, to the paradigm shift? Do you have any life hacks or best practices to transfer into the system? Thank you for your question. I can tell you what I saw is working. Basically, you can move into the developers team, or put testers inside the developers team. Simply, we'll need to spend more time to reach the developers. Well, it's not a problem for us to use the open space to work together. The problem is if you have a well-developed business and which has a paradigms in place, the developers develop and the testers test. They write the regression test and so on, and the testers write their own unit tests, and consequently they spend a week on testing the code. So it goes here and there in both ways. How can you change this system, all of it? The short answer is I don't know. I think the culture is the most stable thing. If you have a culture in the team, it will be very difficult to change. But you can do the following. The testers can go to developer and ask them, what kind of task do you develop and can we help you somehow? It can happen that the people in a team, it's a process. I coded the task and I give it to testers because this is the way, this is how things are done. But sometimes the developers want the test to be released as SAP, and others want to be sure it works 100%. But you need to ask the developers what they really want, and if we can help them. Very often, I heard from people working in the team next to us when I discussed the situation when the developer wrote their code doesn't want to wait for 2 weeks for the tester to finish, and they can work together and find a solution how to decrease this market to shelf life. So if you have a stable culture, you need to think whether you need to change it. Fortunately, whatever time you can find Vitaliy in the corridor, and he will answer all of your questions there. I was asked to give a T-shirt to somebody. I think I will give it to you for the best question. Also wanted to say that in the discussion though there'll be conversation on who needs to